Happy Friday, Millbrook. Do you know that feeling when God keeps putting things in your mind or the same thing keeps popping up in conversation after conversation? Well, that's kind of what's been happening with me this past week. I've been thinking a lot about Gregory Boyle, who is a Jesuit priest and author of a book, Tattoos on the Heart. I'm going to read an excerpt about this, but I want to share how this excerpt came into my mind this past week. First, we started talking about Gregory Boyle and his theology on grace and the afterlife and all sorts of things as part of our young adult class. I didn't think much of it. He's a very popular author, so we moved on and I went about my day. And then later, driving into church one day this past week, I was listening to a podcast, kind of an ecumenical podcast. It talks about different faiths. And somebody shared that it was through reading Tattoos on the Heart, Gregory Boyle's book, one of them, that they unlocked and realized how good and how big God's grace is for us. And they said, you know, when I compared this to what I was believing, I was overcome and overwhelmed with love and a feeling of security and grace and the feeling of being enough. She's like, the idea that God thinks I'm enough just blew her out of the water, and she converted to becoming some form of Christian. And that got me thinking more and more. And so I pulled the book off my shelf because I said, I want to hear more about what she was talking about. And I found the excerpt that she was quoting, the excerpt that totally flipped her faith and turned her world upside down in all the right ways. So I want to read you a passage. Now, what's important is that this book is all about Father Gregory Boyle's work in California. His church is fairly unique. It's made up of mostly gang members. He works and serves with people who are trying to leave gangs, who are trying to turn from a life that they formerly knew, right? And so just being in that line of ministry, his ministry intersects with a lot of things, with gun violence, with prison, with all sorts of these types of dynamics. And he navigates it beautifully with grace and poise and profound truths about our faith that I think we sometimes overlook, that it can really be just this simple. So I'd like to read you an excerpt. He says, I landed on the gospel that I wanted to use as a liturgy. Jesus says, you are the light of the world. I like even more what Jesus doesn't say. He does not say, one day if you're more perfect and try really hard, you'll be light. He doesn't say, if you play by the rules, cross your T's and dot your I's, then maybe you'll become light. No, he says straight out, you are the light. It is the truth of who you are, waiting only for you to discover it. So for God's sake, don't move. No need to confront yourself. No need to convert yourself to being anything other than who you are. We are who we are. We make a lot of mistakes. We are not perfect, and sometimes rage calls the shots. But we are the light of the world. How beautiful, how rich, how profound to think that we, just as we are, is enough. We, just as we are worthy of grace, and that we, just as we are right now, no matter who you are, no matter what your job is or your education level or your age or your status or any of that, just as you are the light of the world. And Jesus speaks that truth over you time and time again, right? It's both humbling but also emboldening, right? That we get to believe because Jesus tells us so, that we are the light of the world. I feel like in our culture, we're so overwhelmed, or the market is overly saturated with this mindset of self-help, right? Like if you go to the bookstore, there's aisles and aisles of self-help books, how to be the best version of yourself right now, how to be the best parent, the best you, the best leader. And I'm all about improving and growing, right? Especially as a Methodist. John Wesley talks to us about this journey towards sanctification where over time we are made more like Christ each and every day. I believe that wholeheartedly. But we aren't on that journey of becoming better Christians or more like Christ in order to gain grace, right? We have to remind ourselves we've already been given grace. We are already enough just as we are. Yes, we want to be the best Christian or try to, it's hard to put into words, right? We want to be better in all facets of our life, but we cannot let ourselves fall into the trap that if we just lose 15 pounds or just get that promotion or just achieve something else in this world, that is where our worth and value is. The world doesn't get to tell you your value. Your value comes from Christ. And Christ says, just as you are right now, imperfections and messiness and flaws and all, you are enough. You are worthy. You are the light of the world. Millbrook, I hope as we go into this next week, grasp onto that. Hold on to that affirmation that you are the light. And only you have the opportunity to share the spark that God has put in you with others. That's all up to you. That is your gift and your opportunity this week. I love what he said, that it's the truth of who you are, only waiting for you to discover it. We already have that light within us. We already have God's grace pouring over us. Discover it. And I think when we do that, it makes it easier to stop caring about what's next, about becoming a different version of yourself. Millbrook, harness that. Hold on to that truth because you are the light of the world.